Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Gabos, and we back with another highlight video. Well, this ain't a highlight video. Back with another video. We got the heartbreaking rise of Dak Prescott. We're going to take some time to give Dak Prescott his flowers, ladies and gentlemen. If you ask me, I don't think there's been a quarterback in the league that's been under more scrutiny and received the harshest of criticisms. Honestly, to be honest, it's really because he plays for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's just keep it a bean. Dak Prescott ain't the worst quarterback, but he certainly improved this year. 36 touchdowns, over 4,000 passing yards, and only like 9 interceptions or something like that. Dak has been phenomenal. And we're not just talking about the stats, right? We're talking about the eye. We're talking about, has he commanded the offense? Has he gotten better? Has he gotten better as a leader? Has he won difficult games? And he's checked every box. Yes. As the Dallas Cowboys are the second seed in the NFC to the 49ers. A lot of people didn't have Dak Prescott being that good, especially with what we saw the Eagles do last year. So today we're going to take some time to give Dak his flowers before the haters come running in, right? As we look back to the heartbreaking rise of Dak Prescott. Yes, your quarterback, Dallas Cowboys.
He was projected to be, at best, an NFL backup during the pre-draft process. 7 quarterbacks were selected ahead of him, but now it's looking like he was the best one in the whole draft. On and off the field, he's had to overcome tragic obstacles. But now, it's looking like it's all falling into place for him. We're about to uncover how Dak went from possibly a tight end to an NFL MVP candidate. Because this is what they aren't telling you about the rise of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott faced adversity as soon as he entered the world. Born with severe asthma, Dak was sometimes in the hospital for weeks at a time growing up. When Prescott was home, his mom had to teach his older brother Tad how to administer his breathing treatments since he needed them multiple times a day and she had to go to work. Dak's football journey began at the rural Louisiana trailer park where he lived growing up. The kids at the trailer park had made a mini football field in the grass. Dak's 2 older brothers would take him there and have him play football with their friends who were bigger and older than him. Despite being a standout quarterback in middle school, Dak didn't become his school's varsity starting quarterback till his junior year. That season in the district championship, Dak's team, Houghton High School, was down with 1:40 left in the game. He led them down the field to win the championship with just seconds left. But
that should be so crazy when you're watching star athletes play in high school. Because at that time, it's like you never know someone's going to be what they become, right? A lot of people in the stands ain't thinking any of these guys. I mean, you hoping that they make it to the league, but a lot of these guys don't. So when you watching like a star athlete in his high school days, it's like, and in high school, you play every type of position. You know what I mean? Not one person's only playing one position, bro. The running back is the cornerback. The quarterback can play side end. Like, what?
In spite of an incredible junior season, Dak was lightly recruited heading into his final high school season.
He looked tight big for a quarterback in high school.
The summer before his senior year. Smaller schools like McNeese State, North Texas Memphis, Louisiana Tech, and Northwestern State soon followed. The biggest school he had an offer from besides Mississippi State was TCU. That is, until the December following his senior season. By this point, Dak had committed to Mississippi State and was about to say, I didn't even know which college he played for. On campus in January. But then his home state school, LSU, came in with an offer. However, there was a catch. They didn't want him as a quarterback. They wanted him to come in and play tight end. In response to this, Dak's mom told him he was a quarterback, and that's the position he should play. So in the end, Dak ended up staying with Mississippi State. When Dak arrived on campus, he didn't know how to read a defense at all. He said he couldn't tell the difference between cover 3 and man, so it made sense for him to redshirt his true freshman season. The following year, 2012, technically his freshman season, he was the team's backup QB, but did get to see action in all 12 games, mostly to run the ball and pick up yardage in short down situations. Prescott entered the next season as the team's backup yet again, but then during the first game of the season, the team's starter Tyler Russell suffered a concussion. Dak was then named the team's week 2 starting quarterback in relief of the injured Russell. And
that's how it starts, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I'll be the first one to tell you, as a long-loving New England Patriot fan, that's how it starts, bro. It takes one injury to a quarterback that had the job before a legacy starts. You know, I watched Drew Bledsoe get knocked out of a game, and that was the beginning of the Tom Brady era, and the rest is history. It be like that. It really do be like that, man. You don't wish injuries on anyone, but in football, bro, it's such a cutthroat sport. You would think you would get your job back, right, when you heal up. Nope. Not if the backup winning.
Alcorn State, Dak threw for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. The team won 51-7. With Russell's concussion still keeping him on the sideline, Dak was slated to make his second start. But this time, he wasn't going up against a school like Alcorn State. He was going up against an SEC powerhouse, Auburn, at their stadium. Dak had the Bulldogs up 20-17 with seconds left in the game. But then, in heartbreaking fashion, Auburn scored a touchdown with 10 seconds left to win the game. Dak finished that one by throwing for 213 yards, running for 133, and scoring 2 rushing touchdowns. When Tyler Russell did return from his injury eventually, Dak didn't go back to the bench. Both quarterbacks shared reps as the team's starting QB. But just as Dak's college career was starting to take off, he received the worst news imaginable. Dak's mom, Peggy, had finally broke the news to him that she had been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. She was actually diagnosed a while back, but didn't want to tell Dak because she didn't want her son to worry about her. Despite the cancer spreading, Peggy would still come to watch her son be an SEC starting quarterback in person. As her outlook was starting to look bleak, she told Dak words that have propelled him through his life. "Allow me to be your story." After playing his worst game of the season in a loss versus South Carolina, Dak was called into his coach's office late at night. Before his coach handed him the phone in his office, Dak already knew what was coming. He knew his mother had lost her battle with cancer. After Peggy's funeral, Dak hopped right back on the plane with his coaches to go to practice. His coaches were
I'm not even going front. I didn't even know Dak didn't have his mom in his life. Like, I didn't know she passed away. That's crazy. Like, damn. And it's like, it's so humbling when you hear stories about anybody losing their mom, right? Because, like, that's, like, the one thing I always say about moms, right? To any young man who's grown up without, like, a father, and, like, you know, I used to grow up being mad at my mom because life was, like, hard as a kid. But it wasn't until I grew up that I could really appreciate the one woman that was always there for me in my entire life. I always say this, like, the one thing about moms that separates that one woman from every other woman, that's the one person that's going to give you unconditional love regardless. You know what I mean? Like, in society, you have to earn a lot of things, you know, nothing is given to you, but a mother's love is the only thing that could be given to a young man, bro, for free. You know, and I always harp on my younger brother. I'd be like, yo, bro, love your mom regardless, because she's the only person that's going to give you unconditional love without asking for anything in return, bro. I didn't even know Dak lost his mom, man. That shit is sad.
Like, "Dak, are you sure you're ready to leave?" And Dak said, "My mom would be so mad if I missed the game this weekend." Unfortunately, in the game that weekend, Dak injured his shoulder versus number 11 Texas A&M and was sidelined for a few weeks after. Then came the last game of the season, the Egg Bowl versus Ole Miss. After being down in the fourth quarter with an offense struggling to move the ball, head coach Dan Mullen turned to Prescott and asked if he felt good enough to play. After Dak led the offense down the field twice, Mississippi State's kicker missed a 39-yard game-winning field goal with 1 second left in the game. So to overtime they went. Soon after, the Bulldogs found themselves staring at a 4th and 2. Mullen decided to go for it instead of trying a chip shot field goal. Dak took the QB draw up the middle and into the end zone to score what would soon be the game-winning touchdown. It was his first time in the end zone since his mother had passed. He pointed to the sky to honor her. The Prescott brothers said it felt like their mom was there in that moment. The next season was Dak's first as the Bulldogs' full-time starting quarterback. The team started that 2014 season unranked, but after Dak led Mississippi State to 3 consecutive wins versus number 8 ranked LSU, number 6 ranked Texas A&M, and number 2 ranked Auburn, Mississippi State was ranked as the number 1 team in the nation for the first time ever. They held on to that number 1 ranking for 5 straight weeks. By the end of Dak's junior season, he completed 61% of his passes for 3,400 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. On the ground, he rushed for 986 yards and 14 touchdowns.
Okay.
Dak also finished 8th in Heisman voting that year and broke multiple school records, like the record for total touchdowns in a single season, total passing yards in a single season, passing touchdowns in a single season, and more. Prescott returned to school for his senior season. Despite the team not not being ranked as high, Prescott himself played even better football than he did the year prior. During Dak's senior season, he completed 66% of his passes for 3,700 yards, 29 touchdowns, and just 5 interceptions.
He got better.
He also rushed for 588 yards and 10 touchdowns. Dak rose up many teams' draft boards during the pre-draft process after winning the MVP award at the Reese Senior Bowl and having a great showing at the Combine. Despite this, Dak was still projected to be a backup quarterback once he got into the league. Media publications had him ranked anywhere from the 5th to 10th best QB in the class. NFL teams loved his leadership and personality, but thought his on-the-field play was inconsistent in college. He was coming from a spread offense in school, so there were also questions about how well he could play in a pro-style one. Draft day arrived, and the Cowboys selected Dak Prescott in the 4th round with the 135th overall pick. This was a dream come true for Dak, the kid that grew up telling everyone, I'm going to play quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys when I grow up. 7 quarterbacks were selected ahead of Dak, though. Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Paxton Lynch, who the Cowboys actually initially tried to draft in the 1st round, Christian Hackenberg, Jacoby Brissett, Cody Kessler, and Connor Cook. Once Dak arrived in Dallas for minicamp, he decided to make a change.
Oh my gosh, man. Fire all the GMs that took them bum-ass quarterbacks, bro. Jacoby Brissett? Like, oh, God. Hold on, I got to listen to this shit again. I know Paxton Lynch was going to be a bust from the get.
7 quarterbacks were selected ahead of Dak, though. Jared Goff, Carson
Jared
Wentz,
Goff, decent.
Paxton
Carson
Lynch, who the Cowboys actually initially tried to draft in the
Bust.
1st round, Christian Hackenberg,
Bust.
Jacoby Brissett,
Christian Hacken what? Bruh. I don't even remember him as a Jet, bro.
Cody Kessler, and Connor Cook. Once Dak arrived in Dallas for minicamp, he decided to make a change. His college number 15 was already taken by a veteran player, so he decided to go with the number 4 to honor his mom, who was born on September 4th. Prescott entered training camp as the 3rd string QB on the Cowboys depth chart. But once backup Kellen Moore...
I'm not gonna lie. I love how the numbers matter so much to athletes. You know what I mean? Like they find something symbolic or something that they can compare to their personal life. Numbers are just numbers on their jersey. These things mean something, bro. I never knew that's what the 4 meant to Dak, but that's a dope story.
Dak and Jamil Showers battled for the 2nd spot on the depth chart. Interestingly enough, early in camp, it was reported that Showers actually looked better than Prescott. But when the team's first preseason game arrived, Prescott got to make the start. Immediately, Prescott showed it was the right decision. In the 1 half of the game he played, he completed 10 of his 12 passes for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. But everything changed for Prescott just 2 weeks later.
When
in the
Romo
Cowboys'
went down,
3rd preseason game, starter Tony Romo fractured his back and was going to be out for at least half the season. Just like that, in a matter of weeks, Dak Prescott went from the 3rd string QB to the Cowboys' starting quarterback for the season opener. The Cowboys' first game of the season was versus the Giants. Dak completed just 55% of his passes, and the Cowboys lost by 1 point. But after Dak's first NFL start, things changed. The Cowboys went on to win a whopping 11 straight games. In that 11-game stretch, Dak completed 69% of his passes for 2,700 yards, 24 total touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions.
That was Zeke Elliott's rookie year too.
An absolute tear. His true breakout game during that stretch came in a Week 10 matchup at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers took a 1-point lead with just 42 seconds left in the game. Dak then proceeded to lead the Cowboys down the field for a Zeke Elliott game-winning touchdown. That game was the first time Dak had broken the 300-yard mark in his career too. Even after Tony Romo was healthy enough to play, in a press conference just 2 days after the Steeler game, he said, quote, Dak Prescott and what he's done, he's earned the right to be our quarterback. The Cowboys finished that 2016 season with a 13-3 record. After receiving a first-round playoff bye, the Cowboys were set to face off with the Packers.
As a rookie, earning a first-round playoff bye is insane. It's insane, bro. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something that's just gifted to you. You know what I'm...
in the divisional round. The game didn't get off to a great start for Dallas, though. By the 4th quarter, they found themselves down 28-13. But Dak willed his team back into the game, throwing a touchdown to Jason Witten with just over 11 minutes left to make it an 8-point game, and then led the offense on an 80-yard drive that resulted in a Dez Bryant touchdown with just over 4 minutes left.
Desi, we remember you, my boy.
End zone for the 2-point conversion that tied the game. The Packers got the ball back and hit a field goal to take the lead again with just 1:37 left. So the Cowboys rookie QB had the ball at his own 25 with 90 seconds left and 1 timeout. Would he choke in the biggest moment of his career so far? Nope. He made multiple big throws to bring the Cowboys down the field to the Packers 35, where Dan Bailey hit a field goal to tie the game with 32 seconds left.
Rodgers.
But the thing is, there was this guy on the other team named
that
Aaron
throw down the
Rodgers,
sideline was
he
crazy.
pretty good in these moments. And yeah, unfortunately,
mode.
he got the Packers in the field goal range and they won as the clock hit 0. It was a heartbreaking way for Dak's magical rookie season to end. He did end up taking home the Rookie of the Year award and a few weeks later made it to the Pro Bowl. Prescott's second season in the league was a letdown compared to his first. The Cowboys missed the playoffs going 9-7. Dak's completion percentage dropped from 67% his rookie season to 62% his sophomore season. He threw 23 touchdowns his rookie season while only throwing 22 in his second season, and he also more than tripled his interception number from throwing 4 his rookie season to 13 in his second year. This was also
Sophomore
the season
slump.
Ezekiel Elliott was suspended 6 games, so clearly his absence had an effect on Dak. The pressure was on Dak entering the 2018 season. Would he be able to prove he wasn't a one-season wonder? Well, in his third NFL season, Dak returned to looking like the guy we saw his rookie year. He led the Cowboys to a 10-7 record to win the NFC East yet again, while also throwing for a career-high 3,800 yards. Dak was in the playoffs yet again, but this time versus the Seahawks in the wildcard round. However, when the Cowboys played the Seahawks earlier that season, Dak played his worst game of the year, completing just 55% of his passes for 168 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. But this time around, things were different for Dak. He led the Cowboys to their first playoff win with him as their starting QB, and had this crucial run on 3rd and long to set up his own rushing touchdown to seal the victory. I quickly want to thank Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. This love playing team from 200 all over the Cowboys defense. Dallas found themselves down 23-7 in the third. The Rams offense was just too much for the Cowboys and they lost 30-22. The following year,
that was a good game too.
2019 was a bizarre one for Dak and the Cowboys. After finally getting their first playoff win with their new franchise quarterback, there were expectations that Dallas could actually make a deep playoff run this time around. Prescott opened the season by completing 78% of his passes for 405 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating in a win versus the Giants.
Nah, that season with Amari Cooper was different.
Dallas was still undefeated. But once week 4 kicked off, things went downhill for the Cowboys. They lost 3 in a row and were then looking at a 500 record. The team got back to 6-4 by week 11 and were yet again sitting atop the NFC East. They controlled their own destiny. If they took care of business, they would be back in the playoffs. But then the Dallas Cowboys just absolutely fell apart, losing 6 of their last 8 games. The Cowboys finished the season with an 8-8 record and missed the playoffs. The weird thing is though, this was Dak's best season statistically. He threw for over 4,900 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Most of the blame for this failure of a season was placed on the coaching staff, so Jason Garrett did not return as the team's head coach. Mike McCarthy took over as the Cowboys head coach entering 2020. Despite starting the season 1-3, Dak statistically was on a tear. In a week 2 win versus the Falcons, Dak became the first player in history to pass for over 400 yards and rush for 3 touchdowns in a single game. 2 weeks later, after passing for over 500 yards in a loss versus the Browns, Dak became the first player ever to throw for over 450 yards in 3 consecutive games. But everything came crashing down for Dak just 1 week later. As Prescott ran with the ball and tried to break a tackle, his ankle got rolled up under the defender as he got brought down to the turf. Dak's ankle was dislocated and he had a compound fracture, which is way more serious than just a normal break or fracture.
I ain't gonna front. I thought we were starting to see the end of Dak with that one, bro. A lot of people were chirping about this not being like career ending, but like Dak would never be the same as a quarterback and how difficult of a rehab that injury would have been to recover from, son. But I ain't gonna front. He bounced back.
His season was over and he knew it right then and there on the field. Just a few hours later, Dak underwent surgery to minimize the risk of infection due to the way he broke his bone. Dak was now looking at an extremely long recovery and rehab with no promises he would return to his old mobile self on the field. This would be a dark time for any person, but for Dak, it was even tougher. Just a few months earlier, Dak's older brother Jace took his own life.
I remember
Dak was still grieving when this possibly career-altering injury occurred. But Dak is as mentally tough as people come, and he posted a video just a few days after surgery.
I remember the idiots that were commenting about the fact that Dak's brother had died, and like Skip Bayless specifically came at Dak as a leader because Dak spoke openly about dealing with the levels of depression that he suffers from. And you know, it's not easy being a quarterback, bro. Like you're either a superhero or you're a villain. You know what I mean? You're loved as long as you can win. And a lot of fans, you know, and this is why I'll be getting at some of y'all nut ass fans. A lot of y'all forget that these people are human. And they bleed like you bleed. They cry like you cry. They suffer like you suffer. It's not just, you know, rainbows and glory. You know, people be dealing with some real shit. And like he was dealing with the depression and he spoke about it publicly, and Skip Bayless questioned his ability to be a leader. And it's like, it's not like his brother died or anything, right? Like he can't admit to being depressed. He can't admit to having real life human emotions, even though he plays for the Dallas Cowboys. What does that revolve him? Like what does that remove him from being able to feel shit? It was crazy. Like I said in the beginning of the intro, there's no quarterback in the league that goes under the heaviest scrutiny when it comes to Dak Prescott, compared to Dak Prescott. Nobody. You can't find me a quarterback that's constantly in people's mouths like Dak Prescott. Whether he good or bad, he's in someone's mouth. You know, so shout out to him for, you know, for really being a Dallas Cowboy quarterback, bro.
Saying he was in great spirits.
Excited for God's purpose and God's plan. I know it's bigger than anything that I see.
God did.
Or that I could have imagined, but I'm trusting him. My faith is doubled down more than ever.
Dak attacked his rehab and was healthy for the start of the 2021 season. Still, many questioned how Dak would look on the field coming off such a serious injury. But in the first game of the season, Dak shocked everyone.
Dak was back.
42 of his 58 passes for 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception versus the defending Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. With just over 4 minutes left, Dak had the ball at his own 11 down 2. He led Dallas all the way down to the Bucs 30, where they hit a field goal to take the lead with just under 90 seconds left in the game. But then Tom Brady did Tom Brady things and marched the Bucs down the field with just seconds left to win the game. Despite the loss, it was clear Dak was back. The Cowboys finished the season 11-5, winning the NFC East yet again. In the first round of the playoffs, they faced off with the 49ers. After being down 23-7 in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys came back and were down just 6th in the final minute. After failing to get points on the previous drive, the Cowboys had one final chance to score with 32 seconds left. They had the ball at their own 20 with no timeouts left. It looked like it would take a miracle to get it done. After getting the ball down to the 49ers 40 with 14 seconds left, it looked like the Cowboys actually had a chance to make something happen. But the following play, remember, with no timeouts, the Cowboys decided to run a QB draw with Dak. He got taken down at the 25, but the Cowboys couldn't spike the ball in time. The clock hit zeros, and they lost the game.
Season
the call
done.
to have Dak run a draw play in that moment was heavily criticized, as it should have been. Heading into the 2022 season, the Cowboys had the 9th best odds to win the Super Bowl. Dak looked bad in the team's first game of the season, completing just 48% of his passes for 134 yards and 1 interception. To make matters even worse, late in the game, Dak's throwing hand hit a defender's helmet and fractured it. Prescott then had to undergo surgery to have a pin and plate placed in his thumb. This meant he was going to be stuck on the sideline for the next 6 to 8 weeks. As soon as Cooper Rush took over as the team's starting quarterback the following week, the Cowboys went on a 4-game win streak. Some conversations started to arise around if Rush should be the team's starting quarterback.
Stop it.
Even once Prescott was...
I remember when the people were chirping about that. That's all media. Now, you know, no fans were asking for Cooper Rush to take over Dak Prescott's job, bro. Even though the Cowboys were 4-0, anybody with a brain saw the difference between how Cooper Rush played versus Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush played conservative. I'm not going to turn over the ball. I'm not going to be the reason we lose. We're going to run the ball a lot. And, you know, when the time came for him to make throws, I'll give it to Cooper Rush. He made those throws. But the eye test showed you that Dak Prescott was still the franchise quarterback. Stop it. It's just media talk. And that's what the media does, bro. And I always try to disconnect from listening to these people talk garbage. Half the time, you know, sometimes you just run out of things to talk about, so you create narratives. No one thought Cooper Rush was going to get rid of Dak Prescott, bro. No one thought... No!
Healthy. Ultimately, that didn't happen, and Dak returned under center for a Week 7 matchup. But the noise about Cooper Rush didn't just disappear. Dak threw a career-high 15 interceptions that season, despite just playing in 12 games. he was a turnover machine. The Cowboys finished
That
the
he
season
was.
12-5 and we're back in the playoffs though. For their first round matchup, Dak would have to face off with a team he struggled so mightily against in the first week of the season, the Buccaneers. But this time around, Dak looked like a totally different player, completing 75% of his passes for 305 yards and 5 total touchdowns. Prescott had finally secured his second playoff win, which helped calm the narrative that he couldn't win in the postseason. Next up in the divisional round was a matchup with another opponent that had recently given the Cowboys nightmares, the San Francisco 49ers. Would the Cowboys be able to overcome their horrific play calling in the final seconds of last year's playoff matchup? No, because this is what they ran as their final play of the game. So yeah,
shit made no sense, bro. I'm still trying to understand what was the relevance to having Ezekiel Elliott call hike. Like, what kind of goofy ass shit are we on, bro? What was the point of this? Why'd we get rid of the actual center to make the starting running back snap the ball as if he could block and protect? I was like, fire McCarthy, bro. Like, this was, I'm trying not to say it, like, this was pretty slow of him, yeah? Right? This was pretty slow of the Dallas head coach.
What they ran as their final play of the game.
And look at Elliott, just gets mauled.
The 49ers and yet again couldn't make it past the divisional round of the playoffs. So fast forward to this season, the Cowboys have to take on their old friend, the 49ers, in week 5 of the regular season. The good news for the Cowboys is they didn't need to worry about drawing up a great play with just seconds left in the game. The bad news is they didn't have to do this because San Francisco just absolutely blew them out. Dak had a horrific game, throwing for just over 150 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. After this 42-10 loss, the Cowboys and Dak were the laughing stock of the league. But Dallas didn't let the outside noise get to them.
They were.
Since that week 5 loss, the Cowboys have gone 7-1, and Dak has looked like an MVP candidate. In those 8 games, he has completed 69% of his passes for 2,400 yards, 25 total touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. It's looking like this might be Dak's best season.
Those are Aaron Rodgers-like numbers. Those are 25 touchdowns, 2 picks, 69% completion is like, yeesh.
It's looking like this might be Dak's best season ever. And maybe, just maybe, I know this is said every year, the Cowboys might finally be able to get past the divisional round in the playoffs.
This was a good one. I'm proud of Dak Prescott, bro. Like, a lot of people didn't see him having a season like this. He actually, to me, not only improved, but he's now in the elite conversation. Now, I get it. It's only been a year that he's been this good, but this guy has a body of work where he's had other successful seasons. This isn't just like some one-hit wonder. We've seen the Dallas Cowboys be good before because of Dak Prescott. And now he's added greatness on top of, just how good he's been throughout his career. So I think this is the coming of age of a new franchise quarterback. I think Dak Prescott is going to be an elite quarterback, a top 5. Arguably this year, you could put him up there top 3. Couldn't even blame you. He was better than Mahomes. He was better than Josh Allen. He was better than Jalen Hurts. He was better than all the quarterbacks you typically would have had above him coming into the season. I don't know, just my thoughts. But nonetheless, we're getting ready for playoff time, and the Cowboys Cowboys don't have a bye week, but it's going to be exciting to see how this season ends for the Dallas Cowboys. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm going to holler at you guys in the next video. Road to 20K. My bad.